Drama Hanbok? Did Jimin and Jungkook accidentally trigger a cultural firestorm? Their simple travel tip turns into a US debate about soft promotion. Did a single sentence from Jimin and Jungkook BTS really spark one of the most unexpected cultural debates of the year? Could a harmless moment in a casual GQ Japan interview ignite accusations, misunderstandings, and a wave of outrage from US netizens who insisted the duo were subtly promoting their country? And how did a warm, friendly suggestion about Hanbok suddenly transform into a polarizing conversation about soft power, cultural influence, and hidden agendas? These are the questions now circling the internet, leaving fans and critics equally stunned. The strange drama began with something so small, so innocent, that even ARMY could hardly believe what happened next. During the 83-second interview leading up to the release of Are You Sure? Season 2 on Disney+, the duo sat side by side, glowing under soft studio lights, dressed in stylish black outfits that emphasized their natural charisma. With the gentle chemistry fans adore, they reflected on their travels, laughed at shared memories, and opened up about the beauty they witnessed around the world. Nothing about the exchange felt rehearsed or strategic. They spoke like travelers, brothers, friends, not ambassadors carrying hidden agendas. Then the interviewer asked the question that would unknowingly ignite a storm. Where would they recommend ARMY visit when they come to Korea? Jungkook answered without hesitation, casually suggesting Korea's palaces. Jimin followed with a soft smile, agreeing and adding that wearing hanok at Gyeongbokgung would be a beautiful memory for fans. That was it. A simple recommendation, a harmless cultural nod, a moment that could have passed unnoticed, but it didn't. Within hours, the clip exploded online. The discussion moved beyond admiration and excitement. Certain US netizens began accusing them of soft promotion, arguing that the boys were subtly pushing Korean culture and national branding. What shocked many was how rapidly the criticism escalated, as though Jimin and Jungkook's comment was part of an orchestrated global marketing tactic. Suddenly, what was once a simple travel suggestion transformed into a conversation about cultural dominance, soft power, and national influence. This backlash felt surreal to many, especially ARMY. After all, recommending traditional clothing at a historical landmark is a common tourist experience, not a geopolitical strategy. No one complained when the pair praised Switzerland's breathtaking landscapes, Da Nang's charming small moments, Malta's atmosphere, or their sudden enthusiasm for Sapporo. Only when Korea entered the picture did accusations arise. This selective sensitivity revealed something deeper. The world wasn't reacting to the content itself, but to the immense cultural weight carried by Jimin and Jungkook. Their influence has grown to the point where even an offhand comment can shift global attention. Two men in military service, appearing in a short interview clip, can trigger international debate simply by being themselves. Their words ripple further than most governments' PR campaigns, and that power, whether the boys intend it or not, unsettles people who worry about the rise of Korean culture in global spheres. The criticism, disguised as concern about soft promotion, was actually rooted in a deeper discomfort with the unstoppable spread of the Korean wave. Yet the heart of the GQ Japan interview was nowhere near political. Jimin spoke gently about Swiss scenery that overwhelmed him to the point of losing sense of distance. Jungkook smiled and complimented his poetic phrasing. They talked about Da Nang with warmth, about Malta with joy, about Sapporo with playful excitement. Their laughter filled the room. Their brotherly bond softened the atmosphere. The entire conversation was an echo of the emotional core fans love most. Sincerity tied with sincerity, not strategy, that led them to mention Hanbok. It was affection, not agenda, that made them recommend Gyeongbokgung as a meaningful experience. It was genuine pride, not politics, that brought their homeland into the conversation. And yet, that sincerity was twisted by strangers who saw influence where there was only personal experience. In the end, the debate says far more about the world's perception of BTS than about the boys themselves. Their global influence is so vast that even a casual travel tip becomes a cultural flashpoint. Their bond with ARMY is so strong that their words are magnified beyond normal scale. They didn't create controversy. Controversy formed around them simply because of who they are, But beyond the drama, beyond the online noise, the interview carried a message filled with warmth. As Jimin said at the end, they enjoyed filming, are you sure? More than viewers may ever know. They hoped fans would watch the show as though traveling alongside them. That sentiment captured everything the interview truly represented. Not cultural persuasion, but companionship. Not strategy, but shared joy. The global conversation didn't quiet down as the days passed. Instead, the storm grew heavier, pulling attention from journalists, media analysts, cultural critics, and casual viewers who suddenly found themselves tangled in a debate they never expected to participate in. Why were people so invested in a conversation that started with a simple suggestion to wear hanbok at a palace? Why did the frustration escalate so quickly, turning a harmless interview into headline material across multiple countries? And perhaps most unsettling of all, why did the controversy seem to reveal more about the world's anxieties than about Jimin and Jungkook themselves? The answers began to emerge in fragments, hidden beneath the layers of online discourse, exposure, and cultural tension. Some argued that the backlash mirrored deeper insecurities within Western audiences who felt overwhelmed by the speed of Korean cultural expansion. Others believed it stemmed from the increasingly blurred line between personal and promotional content, where any comment from a figure as influential as a BTS member becomes subject to political interpretation. And yet, as these theories circulated, the heart of the matter remained unchanged. Jimin and Jungkook had simply been honest. They never pretended to be detached from their culture. Their identity has always been woven into their artistry, their storytelling, and their presence. For years, fans have watched them honor their roots with pride, whether through music videos adorned in traditional elements, lyrical references to Korean history, or gentle explanations about customs and values during overseas broadcasts. Their sincerity has never been questioned by those who genuinely understand them. But the internet is not made of people who understand. It is made of people who react. The reaction became a tidal wave, comment sections filled with heated arguments, some defending the boys passionately, others insisting their influence made it impossible to separate personal comments from cultural persuasion. ARMY tried tirelessly to redirect the conversation by reminding critics of the context. This was a lighthearted GQ Japan interview meant to promote a travel show about real experiences, not a heritage campaign. But their attempts often fell on deaf ears, overshadowed by the growing narrative that positioned the duo at the center of a global cultural tug-of-war. Meanwhile, the original clip from GQ Japan continued to spread like wildfire. More people tuned in, not to watch the entirety of the interview, but to focus specifically on the now infamous Hanbok remark. Ironically, this selective attention only proved how deeply curiosity had taken hold. The moment people questioned whether the boys were subtly promoting Korea, the more compelled they felt to examine every second of the video, every nuance, every expression, as though searching for evidence in a mystery. But what mystery was there to uncover when the truth was already plain? In the clip, Jungkook's tone was soft, natural, not the voice of someone delivering a rehearsed statement. Jimin's smile as he described Jangbakgung was gentle, almost shy, the kind of smile someone wears when they recall a quiet moment of beauty. There was no script, no tension, no agenda. Yet, the controversy persisted, fueled by narratives that had nothing to do with them and everything to do with the world's shifting cultural landscape. What made the situation even more fascinating was how Jimin and Jungkook had unintentionally exposed a fracture in global perception. Their recommendation of Hanbok wasn't divisive, the interpretation of it was. It revealed how the same sentence could be heard in completely different ways depending on the listener. To ARMY, the recommendation felt like an invitation into Korean tradition, an act of sharing something meaningful and heartfelt. To some Western critics, however, it sounded like strategic national branding, a tool of the ever-growing Hallyu wave. This disconnect highlighted a powerful truth. The influence of BTS has become so monumental that even unintended moments carry symbolic weight. Their words can no longer exist as simple expressions. They transform into cultural signals, geopolitical cues, and apparently provocations. But is it fair to place this weight on the shoulders of two artists who were simply recounting their experiences? The deeper the discussion went, the clearer it became that the backlash was not truly about Hanbok. It was about the complicated relationship between culture and influence, the blurred boundary between personal pride and public expectation, and the discomfort felt when a non-Western culture achieves unprecedented global impact. Jimin and Jungkook became mirrors, reflecting tensions that had long existed but rarely surfaced with such intensity. At the same time, fans around the world rallied behind them, flooding social media with photos, stories, and memories of their own experiences wearing hanbok at Korean palaces. Many shared how deeply meaningful it had been to connect with the culture that shaped the boys they admired. The narrative shifted again, this time driven by real testimonials rather than speculation. Slowly, the overwhelming warmth from ARMY began to overshadow the negativity, reminding the world that culture is not a weapon, it is a bridge. But the storm was far from over. Because as the debate continued, something unexpected happened. People who had never cared about hanbok before suddenly wanted to know more. They searched, they Googled, they read. Interest spiked so dramatically that Korean tourism sites saw a sudden increase in traffic. What was meant to be an accusation of soft promotion had ironically become a catalyst for genuine curiosity, and perhaps that was the twist no one saw coming. But the real question lingered like fog over the entire controversy. If Jimin and Jungkook never intended to promote anything, why did people immediately assume they were? Why did the world leap to conclusions so quickly, as though two artists speaking casually had suddenly become representatives of a cultural empire in motion? The answer, many analysts suggested, lay in something deeper and far more complex than the interview itself. For years, the global entertainment industry had felt the slow yet undeniable shift of cultural influence tilting toward South Korea. And although that shift had been celebrated by millions, it had also been met with quiet discomfort by others, people who weren't ready to accept that the global stage was no longer dominated by the cultures they were familiar with. When Korean artists became global icons, when Korean dramas topped streaming platforms, when Korean beauty trends spread through every social media timeline, some audiences began to feel as though they were witnessing a transformation that threatened their own cultural comfort zones. In that context, Jimin and Jungkook's hanbok recommendation became a spark in a room filled with unspoken tensions. It triggered concerns that had been building for years, concerns that had nothing to do with the boys themselves. It was never about the hanbok. It was about what the hanbok represented in that moment. The rising global presence of Korean culture, embodied effortlessly by two young men who never intended to carry such symbolic weight. Yet despite the uproar, the most fascinating twist was how unbothered the boys seemed, at least publicly. Perhaps they never expected this sudden wave of discourse. Perhaps they didn't even know it was happening. After all, they were still fulfilling their military duties, far removed from the online whirlwind swirling around their names. Their world, for now, was quieter than the noise outside. And that quiet reality contrasted sharply with the global storm unfolding in their absence. Meanwhile, the anticipation for Are You Sure? Season 2 grew stronger. Fans revisited the Season 1 episodes, watching Jimin and Jungkook laugh as they hiked, teased each other during meal prep, reflected on their lives beneath starry skies. They remembered the raw, emotional honesty that made the show special, the vulnerability in Jungkook's eyes when he talked about future uncertainties, the softness in Jimin's voice when he comforted him, the effortless warmth between them that spoke louder than words ever could. And no matter how loud the online noise became, fans knew the truth. The heart of this duo was never political, never manipulative, never strategic. It was human. It was emotional. It was sincere. And that sincerity was why people kept watching, why they kept defending the boys, why they kept coming back to every interview, every clip, every whisper of content. Jimin and Jungkook had always been storytellers, not through speeches or campaigns, but through the quiet truth of their bond. Maybe that was why people listened so closely even when they didn't understand the context. Their words carried weight, not because they tried to, but because the world had placed that weight on them. Yet the more people watched, the more the conversation took an unexpected turn. Suddenly, media outlets in the US and Europe began publishing think pieces analyzing the uproar. They questioned whether the criticism was justified or rooted in bias. One headline asked why cultural pride was acceptable when shown by Western artists, but suspicious when expressed by Asian ones. Another noted that no one accused American celebrities of soft promotion when they spoke passionately about their hometowns or local attractions. The double standard became glaringly obvious, forcing many to reconsider the outrage entirely.